Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Vip Vipperman, and I'm excited to be back in the studio today with Alexey Krasnoriadtsev to hear
You-
about all the incredible things that are happening with banking on. Alexey, welcome this morning. Glad you're here with us.
Good morning. Good to be here too.
Now, Alexey, if I'm not mistaken, you were also in the great state of Texas this morning.
Yes, sir. In Austin, Texas.
All right, all right. Now, I don't know about you. It was in the 70s when I was out for my jog this morning, but I expect it to be back up in the 90s today. It has been quite a summer.
Yeah. At least we didn't have many days of hundreds, so I can take
Yeah,
that as a win for sure.
there's definitely much to be thankful for, right? That's awesome. Yeah, it's not August yet, though, so we're not counting our chickens yet.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah.
see. Awesome. Well, glad to have you in the studio this morning to chat a little bit about what's been happening at Banking On. Alexey, tell us a little bit about your journey to becoming an entrepreneur and a tech entrepreneur in specifically.
Well, it's not that glamorous. I was working as a programmer, as a developer in a mortgage brokerage firm. And I was 24. We had our first baby. We bought the first house, and I was like junior engineer at that time. And the first year having a baby and my wife not working, I was like 20,000 in debt. Good thing, like I was able to take a HELOC. The next year, another 20,000 in debt, and it just started choking me. Like that fear that my debt is growing was choking me. Um, then I got the promotion to like mid-level engineer, and I looked at the numbers like that's not enough. And my
It's
wife said, "What are you going to do about that?" And you got to start a business to provide for the family. So my New Year's resolution in 2004 was to start a company, and on January 4th, I filed the paperwork, and on January 23rd, I already had the first contract and got
hey, that's
provided,
awesome.
and and the journey started first just by myself, and eventually growing into a consulting firm with multiple folks. And from consulting firm, there was always a desire to have impact, build a product, and that's where we got the ideas of connecting with credit unions. So we start building out mobile banking for the credit union. We launched it first with one as a consulting, but then we saw like, well, we actually now have a product, what we've been dreaming about, where we can build and improve and serve people and communities through that. And that's how Banking On started. We spun it off from my consultant business, and we started Banking On as a product company back in 2017.
All right. It's quite a journey. I love that, entrepreneurs a lot of times get in business because they have a big vision or they have an idea or they just need to get something done. So I love that, you looked around, you're like, hey, this isn't going to change unless I make a change. And so
Well,
just kind of went
and
for it.
having wife that kicks your butt, like like
Yeah.
gotta do something about that, right?
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
That's
I get,
awesome.
I have to.
Now, did you grow up as a coder? Were you, in your kind of in your room as a kid, typing out stuff back in the C++ days, on floppy disks and that kind of thing? Or did you just kind of start to get involved in that in college? How did you get into the technology space?
Yeah, I was never like really a coder as growing up, but as a teenager growing up in Belarus, having when we start getting internet late 90s, having access to that and being able to chat with American girls really was all the kind of inspiration at the time. I was just fascinated that we could have conversations over internet. That time it was IRC chat. I don't know if people remember any of that. But that's kind of, I was always good with computers. I was just not a coder. And moving to Silicon Valley in early 2000s, that's when I was like, whoa. And it's in Soviet Union where I grew up, or post-Soviet Union, the mindset was always like it wasn't very encouraging. So the teachers were there to really crush your dreams. So I always heard from my teachers like, you're never going to be good enough like of an engineer and that kind of stuff. So I kind of,
Oh wow.
for season, I believed them that I didn't even try to pursue because I believe that, they made an honest, fair assessment of my capabilities. They know better than I. But when I was in Silicon Valley, that's when it's like, no, I can actually try. And I took a course thinking I'll be a system admin, but as part of that, there was also C class and Perl class, and I started learning. Like I was like, hey, actually, I'm having a lot more fun doing that, and I'm actually enjoying it, and I'm actually getting it done. And the amazing part of the development, at least process, is you get feedback loop is so quick. You get the satisfaction that you've achieved something constantly, and that's actually very, very satisfying. um,
Mm.
Sometimes like young people actually don't think like, oh, coders, they so boring. It's like you actually have this amazing sense of dopamine hits quite often because you
Ah.
you do something and you see it happen and you see it work. And that part is actually amazing.
Mm.
So if any young people is still trying to think if coding for you or coding's bored, I can tell you that it's not. It's actually very rewarding, very satisfying, and it happens multiple times a day.
There you go. That's awesome. Your story is interesting. I mean, noting a couple points. I love your comment about the power of what people speak into your life. Unfortunately, early on, it was very negative. And I just remember, like, early on in my life as well, some of that. But amazing that once you started to see, like, hey, I can be good at this, and what those people said about me isn't true. Your mind shifts, and you start to think, hey, my identity is not based on what they say about me. I can have another identity, and you found something you love to do, so props to you for that. um, and then I love the quick feedback loop. Sometimes on a Saturday, in Texas it's hot, and getting out to cut the grass, you could pay somebody to get that done for you. But I honestly like, once in a while, most of the work that I do is long lead times,
Yeah.
and often long closes. In the investment business, people don't just make a couple $100,000 decisions like overnight. Typically, they process through that. It's multiple conversations, those kind of things. But sometimes just getting out there, cutting the grass, an hour later, it looks much, much better than when you started. And there's just that feeling of like, I took it from what it was to what it is. And so I'm sure as a coder, you get that, at least most days. I do remember some sprints in the coding space and working in the technology. There's some days where you just keep going and keep going and keep going. And, no matter how hard you push, you just can't make it fix. But
Yeah.
these days, there's a lot more technology out there to help, and some of those AI to help in that space too. So fun. So now you're 2000, you said 17. You've gotten this company started. You guys have got some consulting clients, and you start to see, hey, these consulting clients, if we have a software, we could not just, use our opportunities to consult with them, but we could be making money all the time as people are using our software, and not just when we're doing the consulting work. So you start to build a product. What was the problem that you saw that caused you to build this, in particular, this product? And tell us a little bit about that product, what it does.
Yeah, for sure. So the first product was built, it was very opportunistic. It's not that I've dreamt it and I was pushing for it. I was in a right place in the right time. We were already working on a small project with a credit union as a consulting, and at that time they also launched a mobile banking software product that they bought from a very big technology company.
Hmm.
And it was so bad that they just got like thousands of one-star review in their app store.
Oh,
And it actually led to some shakeup in the executive team just for that. And
oh
again, I
wow.
was the right place at the right time because the CEO looked at me like, Alexey, aren't you the ones who know how to make the mobile app really good? And we're like, well, yeah. And he's like, can you do it for us? And then I remember thinking to myself, like, okay, this is like, and that's when you have those aha moments, right? And those who are believers, we choose to believe that Holy Spirit speaks to us at that point. And I just had this thought, yeah, like, and I told like, yes, it's $2 million or 200,000, and we keep all intellectual property and we sell it to others as well. And they're like, sure, shake hands. So within 6 months, we were able to launch the first version of that,
Oh
and it went
wow,
from
that's
one
quick.
star review to 5 star reviews, of
Amazing.
thousands of 5 stars. And then they introduced us to another credit union, and they introduced it to another bank. So it just kind of started rolling because we saw that with that particular technology company who was selling their product, their mobile was really bad. So we just saw an opportunity to go after all the banks and credit unions who have that technology. They already have a 7-year contract that they can't get out of. And a lot of them were eager to pay more to fix the problem that they had.
So I was talking to an entrepreneur yesterday and getting ready for a podcast. He said it's much better when customers come to you with pain, in the sense of it was like it's one thing to get people to buy vitamins. It's something else when they need to buy medicine because they've got a pain problem that they need you to solve. That's the customer that you want to be solving
Yeah.
for. So it sounds like you found your niche and you're really nailing it. So do you guys? Right in the middle of the fintech world. You specifically serve the credit union space. Do you guys look outside that space to other types of banks, or is it
Uh,
just that one place in particular? And why there?
so So that was our first product. Our second product is more in the vitamin space, and if you were to use analogy, which is a dream now that I had, which is how can we impact the next generation, right? We hear all the
Okay.
stories that in the most prosperous country in the world, there's still people struggling, there are still people having a hard time, and if you actually look at the overdraft income for any credit union or bank, they're making tons on that, which means people still having hard time managing checking account. Um, we can't fix it's much harder to fix the problem with those who already have existing habits, but we just felt this invitation, to work on the next generation to prepare them better. So that way the next generations and generations after can be in a better shape than where we are today as a generation. So that's where the vision of Boku, in fact, it was with the help of Eagle Ventures, honestly, is I had one business idea that I was pitching to Eagle Ventures um, to solve. And I believe it was autonomous banking. How are we going to do this? And I was pitching it to Eagle Ventures and um and to others. So I got multiple no's, but Eagle Ventures were the first one who said no, and this is why. And if you were to change this aspect of your product offering, come back. So I remember I actually went on a like retreat. I rented like a small cabin for 3 days, and I spent time just first day crying. Honestly, like God, what's going on? When is it? Why can't I just figure it out
Mm.
what's needed? And then this I dream, I feel like I received that dream and vision, which was to eliminate the fear of the future in the young generation and infuse them with hope and confidence that they will have what it takes to survive and thrive in a financial world, in a banking world of
Wow.
financial products. So that's where the vision of youth banking came in. So I came back to Eagle Ventures, like say, hey, here's what the new idea is, here's how it fits, and the fact that it's much more doable with much less resources than what my big idea was. Um, which was interesting because if you think about it, oftentimes you hear on the internet it's like have grandiose idea and have all this, and here it actually was no, go smaller, go
Mm.
more niche, go more doable that you can actually achieve with the team that you already have. and smaller
Uh-huh.
resources. So, and as I pitched that to Eagle Ventures, that's when like one, they saw that this is a not trying to solve a red ocean thing, but actually being a very blue ocean where there's not much competition. It
Okay.
was an add-on product for credit unions rather they will have to replace something. So it could be bought by much smaller budget by them. So they faster approval cycles, all those things kind of laid in.
Yeah.
Um, and so we've built Boku as a family banking solution that helps credit unions to serve the needs of families. At
Mm.
first, and that gives us we're eliminating the stress of money from the parents because the parents have the stress of how do I manage my cards with my kids and allowances and chores because cash doesn't cut it anymore. How do I teach my kids about money? Because and our approach to all of that is really comes from we want to teach kids by practice. It's
Nice.
not the information they're lacking. Everyone's overloaded with information nowadays online. It's the actual practice. How do you practice managing checking account? That's like foundation.
Mm.
Oftentimes kids then don't know how to manage loan. They go off college at 18. They never paid anything over time. They don't even know things like late fees exist. Uh,
Right.
and they feel like, oh, $300 a month, that's going to be easy. It's not a big deal. Yes, it wasn't a big deal when your parents were paying for it, but when you have to
Right.
pay for it,
Guilty.
that's very different. So we have features like when the parents can create a loan and the kids pay them back. So the kids actually learning the discipline
Oh,
of paying
nice.
something every month, logging in, clicking pay button. They're learning what it feels like to have a loan. Because loan is not evil, loan is a tool. And that's our goal. So our goal is to prepare the next generation that they know how financial products work earlier in life under supervision of the parents. And at the same time, we're putting credit union as the hero to those families. So, or a bank. But right now we have more tractions with credit unions just because credit unions, all of them are retail banking. With banks, there's about half the banks that are retail, half the banks that are purely commercial. So
I got you.
we're finding more traction with credit unions right now.
Nice. And again,
Yeah,
you're
I don't remember what was the question, so I might have took a little detour. So if I did answer the question, would you mind repeating that, please?
no, absolutely. And I really do think you did. And that was, I mean, what is the problem that you saw and the solution that you guys found? At the end of the day, so oftentimes, people have an idea, but they don't try, they're not solving a problem per se with that idea. They just have something that they think would be cool to make. But you guys actually saw a specific need, and that need is really in this case, in the case of Oku, that like kids are coming up and growing up without financial understanding. And so they really need to understand how banking works so they don't build bad habits for the future. Um, and so, love that you guys have a product for that and are trying to train this next generation
Yeah.
with
And the other
solutions.
side of it, what we saw was that the credit unions themselves are getting older and older. The average age of credit union member customer is 54. And and I also believe that what makes American financial system very good for people is the fact that it's so competitive. Like
Right.
when, if you go to smaller countries in other parts of the world, you have a couple of big banks and they don't
You just,
have to like all tell what rates they're going to charge. They just have those, how come then you come to America and you have a 4% interest rate on auto loan, whereas it's 15 in other parts of the world? It's the fact that there is like 10,000 banks and credit unions all competing. So to me, having that big of a customer base is good. And
yeah.
knowing that they have this need, they need to provide digital experiences to the families to keep the momentum of serving their communities as a nonprofits. So that's what we saw. We saw one is the needs of the the kids and their parents, and then the needs of the credit unions who have the money, who have the budget, and who already are established in those communities and able to pay for our software and pairing it all together and be in the middle of. providing that solution to all of them.
That's awesome, especially as these kids these days are growing up on iPads and phones and all that kind of stuff. They're expecting everything to work on technology, right?
Yeah.
There's no expectation that's going to be cash um, at all. Well, tell me about as you built. Tell me a little bit about the momentum you have now. So where's you started in 2017. Since then, you built two products. Where's the momentum? How you guys are growing, and then we'll dive into some of the lessons that you guys have learned along the way.
Sure. So what's interesting in banking, it's the longer you stay in it, the more awareness, the more trust you have. Banks and credit unions here in America, at least in Europe as well, are very risk averse. Like they've been burned a couple of times by partnering with startups who, who then could not even be there in 12 months or even 18
Mm,
months. And for startups, 18 months is like, that's a lifetime. But for the banks, that's not that long of a time. And if that
right,
startup fails, then they have to hold, the bag of poop of trying to deal with
right.
all those challenges. So they're very, very risk averse. They are very afraid of working with startups. So for us initially, yeah, it was hard to get in, but as you keep on staying, you start building trust, you start knowing people. And so like now I'm getting today. I'll have three demos tomorrow. Actually, today I have four demos. Tomorrow I have another three demos. So every day now we have momentum of demos. And it's interesting because as soon as they see, oh, other credit unions and banks are also signing up. Okay, now it's safe for us to sign up.
Yeah. How
So
many are
there's
you
this.
serving today?
So on that initial product, which we call Petra for, Peter Cornerstone and which I built. So that was our cornerstone product that we launched in 2017. We call it Petra. So on that one, at the peak, we were serving 600,000 monthly active users with
Wow.
six banks and credit unions on that platform. With a new product we have right now, one big credit unions that's using it. We have three credit unions in integration stage of that, and two more working on sort of the contract deals. Um, and as I said, we have momentum of demos and things like that. So for the startup, the hard part of working in a banking is that just the sales cycles are long.
Yeah.
They're not in a rush. Even now, I'm talking to them. They're looking into the 2026 budget cycles that they have to prepare and things like that. So, being able to have patience and resources to stay is important. And with our profitability from the first Petra product and investment from Ego Ventures and others, we were able to stay in the game. And the longer you stay in the game, the more trust you get, the easier the sales become.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on the momentum.
Thank you.
So, talk to me. You guys have built a couple products. You're in the market. You're growing your business opportunity. You're working sales every day. So, I mean, you guys are actively doing it. What are two or three of the lessons that you've learned along the way that have been really powerful for you as a team and for y'all's culture?
Whew, the culture is a very interesting aspect. And you have as many opinions as many people there, right? And you can find validation of different ideas, and you can find people who completely have different opinions. All right, we all know that, but I'm just saying, like, I had to navigate, like, what is our culture? How should
Mm,
it be? Yes, there's examples of this, there's examples of that. But at the end of the day, culture is as good as what the people who are in it and what's natural to them and how we lead it. And if I'm leading it by trying to be like someone else versus what I feel who I am, then
Mm.
it's fake. It doesn't stick. It doesn't hold the weight. It will crack under stress. And so from the very beginning, I felt like our company culture has to be family. And I heard lots of stories where it failed, where it didn't work, where it only is good as until you first lay off, and then how do you lay off in a family? But to me, as I kept leaning into that, I just felt like, no, this is for us. And it's not more about this is the cousin, you're the dad, or you have to somehow, teach the little children. It's more about of mutual respect. Even when we disagree, we're going to stay in this bond because we're a family. It's
Mm.
loyalty that I'm not here to stab you in the back and get ahead of you. It's we are here to serve to work together. And even from a perspective that um, whenever somebody's doing something, what is my initial thought? Is it my initial thought, ooh, why did you do that? This is wrong. You made a mistake. Or, oh, I trust that you were doing whatever you thought was right in that moment with the information you had. Even if you made a mistake, I'm going to celebrate the fact that you actually took initiative and got something done. And yes, you make mistake. Great. Here's, by the way, retrospective. Here's what you probably missed. By the way, I most likely didn't communicate to you this, so you didn't know. So
Mm.
that's kind of how our culture is. So, and I remember bringing to my leadership team probably 4 or 5 years ago. I remember when I said, "Look, let's come up with company values. All I know is that the acronym has to be family. You come up with the actual values, but I don't want anything like super made up. I want what's you guys already know what's already real in our company." And I remember my director of engineering at that time said, for F, I would say freedom. And we were like, freedom? That's interesting. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean by that? He's like, I feel free from fear of being punished.
It's
And I was
good.
like, whoa, that is so true. Because I believed in a great Father God who always leads me not through the fear of punishment, but through invitation of his love.
Mm.
And to know that our team felt that as how we operate as a company was very rewarding. So,
That's awesome.
and that was from our director of engineering, who's not a believer. He's,
Mm.
he, um, so, so yeah, that was really such a sweet moment for a company, for myself. And then we had the team in Russia, and then the war started in 2022. I had an office in St. Petersburg, Russia, here in US, and when you're under pressure, everything feels like a swirl. You're trying to get the direction from the Holy Spirit, but you don't always can hear clearly. You just kind of have to trust and go. And I remember flying to Europe to a country called Montenegro, which I've never been to, start an legal entity there so we can move our people from Russia to get them out of that closed Russian office. And then, leading teams through psychological, like none of them really wanted to, but they chose to follow us as a company, move to Europe, unknown country, unknown language, where Russians weren't always welcomed in a way, even though they're running away from the government that chose to do the atrocities that it did. So that was also a very defining moment for us as a company,
Yeah.
that we get to practice the family part of it. And even though as a company it cost us a lot of money, we had to provide legal guidance, psychological help, and covering all the costs of moving. But that that was looking back, that was like a defining moment where this is where I get to practice to how does the sons of God, of the Most High God, operate, right? So,
Wow. And caring for your employees and just showing them that it mattered to them. Like they mattered enough to you that you would help them, get out of the country and set up new family life in a new place. That's really powerful. Awesome that you guys are willing to take that step. I know it was hard, and I mean, at no time were you not building the company and trying to make sales and rolling out products and trying to serve your clients while all that's going on at the same time. I mean, we talk about some of the times the challenges of being an entrepreneur, but challenge of being an entrepreneur when you got a office in a potential war zone, and how to help your team members deal with that. It's really incredible. Props to you guys for making those hard decisions, and hopefully it's really led to deeper
yeah,
relationships on the company today and a more
for sure.
unified team.
Yeah, I think most of the team is still here. What is it, not five, 3 years into the war. They're still there in Europe working with us. We're, um, but the other part was also the communication, just to be transparent with our partners and clients, where we were just sharing. And, and, and it was a hard time because I remember one of our client executives from the credit union. He went to volunteer. He was on the border with Poland and Ukraine giving out supplies. He saw the people coming through the border torn by war. He's like, I don't want, we got to cancel this. I don't want to deal with you because you have Russian. I'm like, look, yes, it's your choice. You can do that, but here's a plan. We're already closing the office. We're moving people. We're not supporting that. So we are so we had such an amazing support from our customers who were just okay giving us grace because yeah, we through all that the work was hard, like for people to in the moving, trying to get the new country, try to stand in lines in immigration to get some stamp in your passport, trying to find how to open bank accounts because even to open bank accounts so we can pay them salaries so they can have money to
Right.
just survive was also not easy. So all those things, yeah, the work was not up to the standard, but the clients gave us grace. Not forever, but few months. That
Yeah.
was enough for people to settle to start performing from that perspective. So all that was interesting time, sure.
Yeah, man, you guys have been through quite a lot in this season, that's for sure. Well, as we get near the end of the podcast, talk to me a little bit about the role of AI is playing in the fintech industry right now. Like, how are you guys using it? Where is it, where do you see it as opportunities? Where do you see it as maybe challenges? And, how is that playing out? And then we'll get into and where do you see this going in the future? Like, what is the future of the fintech and specifically credit union technology industry?
It's interesting because I don't like my my mantra is to stay really focused on the vision because there's always going to be shining things and distractions, what's the whole industry needs and things like that. I'm not trying to solve the whole needs of the whole industry. I'm trying to stay focused on what the vision is, which is impacting next generation and 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 enabling sustainability for credit unions as an industry so that they can get serve the families. And so for us it's always like what's the win-win, what makes the families win, what makes the kids win, and what makes the credit unions win. So that AI from that perspective is I'm not trying to just bolt it in anyway just to have a buzzword on our pitch deck that we have AI. And we
Yep.
started very simple was okay, our test engineers using AI to quickly generate tests. So it's mostly about boosting our performance of our engineering teams. Of course, we're using it in our marketing materials where we brainstorm with that, but we're not rushing to build AI into our product because it has to solve the specific needs of the vision. And if
Mm.
it's not, then we're not going after that.
Dude, I appreciate that. That's awesome. Just because it's new and shiny doesn't mean it's right for your product. So that's really interesting. So, as a whole, though, where do you think the industry is going? Like in 5 years, what are you expecting to see in this credit union space?
So definitely will be more consolidations. I think
Mm.
there, but to me, that's a good thing for us. A lot of smaller credit unions and banks are being consolidated, and that actually increases the budgets and abilities of the new joint ventures because two
Right.
small credit unions can't have technology, they can't pay for it, they don't have enough. But when they merge up, now they have a bigger budget. So I envision there'll be for us even more banks and credit unions who have the resources. They don't have enough as Chase to invest, billions and billions of dollars technology or build it themselves, but they would need the technology provider. And everybody see that the future of banking is digital experiences, like things we have, which is even managing chores, allowances, and watching educational videos right inside the app or paying the loan that's between the parents and kids. So even social aspects of that, and we have like, you know, liking transaction and things like that. All the social features within a family around this. All that is a digital experience around the money. The banks should just do the money, but they're not going to be able to build those experiences themselves. And as they merge up, they're going to have more resources to partner with technology companies that do provide those kind of technologies that enable families, population to do more and to go faster or be less stressed. And that's my mantra. How can we bring more peace and hope into the families as they deal with money?
That's awesome. One thing I want to make sure to ask in the past, you talked a little bit about languages to make it easier for different populations in the US who maybe didn't have banking set up for them if they weren't, like English speaking folks. Can you talk a little bit about y'all's language kind of focus and making it easy for people that speak different languages or don't have English as a first language to use banking systems?
Yeah, so our idea was that we see, obviously, I'm an immigrant myself. I'm surrounded community of immigrants. And as you recall, like we had um, when Afghani crisis was happening, lots of refugees were coming. There, it's so hard for immigrants when they come to a new country. It also depends on age. I came as an 18-year-old, like everything is an adventure. I'm here to get as much and learn as much, and my mind is still able to comprehend and catch the new concept, learn the language really fast. When somebody comes in their 40s, 50s, 60s, it's much harder for them to adapt. And it's very stressful because everything's new, you don't know what to trust, and money is such an important aspect of that. So what we were adding support for different languages so that the people feel more at peace, just knowing that they understand what's happening with their money because the interface is their language. And that's when we're adding Farsi. And then when Ukraine war started, we're adding Ukrainian language for Ukrainian refugees so that they could just have that sense of stability, knowing that they understand what's happening with their money. And
That's awesome. It's amazing to be able to serve populations well, especially ones that are coming into this country and struggling with so many different things as a refugee, and so trying to figure out how to make life as easy for them as possible. That's incredible, and thanks for your
sure.
passion for serving that way. Obviously, it streams from your passion for the Lord, and so just and serving people well. So really encouraged by that. As a final comment, if people have been listening this morning to the podcast and they're like, wow, that's pretty incredible. I'd like to get my kids more prepared for banking in the future. Or, I'm involved in a credit union. I'd like to get tagged. What's a great next step for people to learn more about y'all's products, to get, a better understanding about, serving in their community and that sort of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Boku.com is our website where you can learn about a product. It's not direct to consumer. We're selling it to banks and credit unions. So if you're a member or customer of the one, let them know about us so they can provide that for your families. And if you're in Fort Worth area, I'll be visiting Fort Worth Community Credit Union just the next month and talking to the executive leadership team. So if you know them, put the word for us. But yeah, we're excited to keep growing and serving the needs of the families and the needs of credit unions in their communities.
Absolutely. Hey, last question, because of what you said, I can't stop thinking about this. It's been rattling around in my head for a few minutes. And that is, when you look at families and you look at this generation, you look at banking, what's the biggest challenge that those families are facing in helping their kids grow up and understanding the banking? Like, what is it? Is it trust? Is it just learning the technology? Is it training the kids to understand loans? I mean, is there like
Yeah,
one thing that
so
just really sticks out for you is like, hey, kids just struggle with this. If parents could do a better job of explaining that, it would help them get a much farther.
to me, it's an exposure. Then when
Oh,
eh, when kids only see you spending and they don't know what it means to manage. It's not that they're stupid, they're just not aware. So they're not thinking about it. If they're exposed to it, if they see what's happening, if they have to make choices, they become a lot more thoughtful. And that's really what our goal is. Our goal is to bring in the exposure. Like one of the features we have that as a parent, if you got an auto loan and you bought the car for your teenager, you cannot put the loan in the name of a child because they're under 18. But in
right.
our app, you can actually make it visible to the child. So now their 16-year-old can actually see what the parents are paying for the auto loan. They can actually see what the balances are. They can make their own payment, partial payment, contribute to that. And what we see is that
Oh,
those kids
interesting.
suddenly like, not, and it's not that they were stupid or ignorant before, they just didn't know. As soon as now they know, their thinking changes. Like when they manage their own account, like before that, my daughter would say, Dad, I want that $100 Lululemon. Come on, it's only $100. I'm
Right.
like, what do you mean only
Only
$100?
$100.
When
Right.
they manage themselves, suddenly that even language stops just because now they're more thoughtful. Now they understand what it is. And all was that they now have access to it. Now they have access to information. Now they can process it. Now they can talk to parents about that. And without having that access, it's really hard to have conversations with kids when it's very theoretical and hypothetical.
Yeah, it
Like
seems
they
like you're
have to be
enabling a
practicing that.
conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're enabling a conversation to happen because otherwise, all they do is see tap, 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 the money going out, but they don't realize all the things that are happening in the background. That's awesome. Well, man, Alexey, thanks so much for taking the time sharing with us today. Appreciate the work you guys are doing in serving different communities of people and helping these different populations. Love your passion and your vision to really serve families and credit unions well. Um, and just excited to see the company grow. So, congratulations on your progress so far, and excited to see
Thank
you
you.
guys succeed in the future. Thanks, bud.
Thanks. Pleasure being here.